millions and millions and millions of dollars. I would think when this goes down, Johnny Manziel, anybody, because I know I see guys trained this way all the time. Get out of the way. Have nothing to do with it. Usually there's a guy whose job it is to just move you out of the way and make sure that you have nothing to do with the actual rat-a-tat of the incident or whatever. And now they're going, well, Johnny punched my... I'm going, well, Johnny might as well have signed a check to your brother, because that's what that sounds like to me. I'm just curious if there's going to be video show. Maybe he did. Hey, maybe Johnny throws blows. He likes Rocky like I do. I don't know. But my gut tells me usually when something like that goes down, there's a right-hand man whose job it is to grab the star or the guy or whatever and move him out of the way of everything so that he doesn't get physically involved in anything. So I'm curious about that part of it.
I guess maybe you just have to consider the possibility, despite everything that we know about Johnny, that consider the possibility that he lacks the maturity to have dealt with that situation in a better way. But I know it's crazy. It sounds crazy. But,
sounds so crazy, it just might work.
Oh, boy.
Oh, I'll tell you what, man. And I can't lie. I keep laughing because Cleveland Scene chose the picture. If you look on our Facebook right now, I just shared the story. They chose the swan picture, of course. So, the story, Johnny Manziel involved in massive fight, and the picture that's attached to it is that bottle to his lips as he's laying on the swan, and, of course, just make the story even better. So we'll see.
Yeah, now that has become the Johnny Manziel stock photo, that everybody will run. Anytime there's a Johnny Manziel story, pull out the swan picture again, guys. We're going to go with that.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. And like I said, you can like Hoyer, Manziel, all you want. As long as Johnny Manziel's out at 2:36 in the morning getting his name in the newspaper, Brian Hoyer can feel free to throw 13 more interceptions next week. He's not going to worry about losing his job. And I'm joking about that, obviously.
Well, you are, but
Brian
only
Hoyer's
slightly. I mean,
right.
Johnny Manziel's behavior is Brian Hoyer's security blanket. Let's put it that way.
Sure is, absolutely, especially after something like yesterday. Talk to me about that. We talked last week, and you were a lot of guys that said, man, I think the Browns can make a showing, but there were a lot of people that weren't sure that they would. And what team
Yeah,
would
and
show
I was
up
one of them,
win.
sure, Jerry. I was one of them that, pressed for a prediction. I said, it looks like an L to me because, you go down there, it's obviously a road game. You've only won, I think you won 2 road games now, but that's a high water mark, I think, for the franchise since they've returned. I thought they were too thinned out with injuries. I thought they were too decimated. I thought the game would mean enough to Atlanta to get a good performance out of them coming home after a couple games on the road. So it just, all those NFL pointers pointed the other direction. But most especially the Browns injury situation, which was just so drastic and they were so thin. I'm shocked that they held the Falcons to 63 yards rushing. I think a season low for the Browns in terms of rush defense. I thought they played very well. Kirksey and Robertson really handled themselves pretty well, I thought. Reuben played one of his better games, I felt, and the center of that Browns defense really held up to the run and struggled in the pass rush, and Ryan was able to pick up some big third down completions. But geez, if you had told me that we'd hold him to 63 yards rushing, I would have changed my tune. And that was sort of out of the blue, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. And that was a big, big part of that. I was worried that Steven Jackson and those guys would get untracked against the Browns rushing defense like everybody else has, And so from that aspect, and I talked earlier with John, I don't know if you were listening at that point, about I thought our defensive backs stepped up against a good core of receivers over there on the other side. I thought they did a comparably good job with what they had to deal with. I know you'll say, oh, well, Roddy White had 100 yards and Julio Jones had 68 yards and a touchdown. But, I mean, for what you're talking about, that wasn't bad at all. I thought you did a good job.
Yeah, you're right. I would agree. I thought, Hayden, did get burned on the first touchdown pass, a post pattern or whatever, but I thought in general he had a real nice game. Obviously, he had the one pick that set us up for some points. And, as much as, everybody's Hoyer bashing today, and I'm still, as far as, I can see, jury's still out. I'm willing to wait the full 16 games, and I am conflicted about committing to the guy for a long-term contract after this. But there can't be any question that he's the guy to finish the season. He's the horse you ride right now. We'll let the whole thing play out later on. And I have a feeling, and we've talked about it, that a very good chance that, because of the unique situation the Browns are in with the contract and his free agency, that they're going to be forced to make a decision that certainly can't possibly please everybody in this town and in this fan base. But I'm perfectly content to wait till the season's over to make that call, have that decision, and for now, you dance with the girl that brung you, and he's that girl. So let's.
And since you mentioned
he
Hoyer,
did it when he had to, and he ended up winning the game for you. And like you say, I admire the guy being straight up and candid in the post game, putting it on himself. wasn't pointing fingers, wasn't blaming anybody. He failed to get. He didn't have enough arm strength on the ball on the first interception or the second one, on the one in the end zone, to get it over the defender that he was trying to get it over. You'd have to think that he was throwing it out of the end zone, or at least throwing, gambling that, hey, I'll trust Josh Gordon to win a jump ball in the back of the end zone. When Gordon, I understand he said he was pushed, and that's why he didn't make an attempt on it. But I also heard you say, and I agree, that he gave up on a lot of routes, and that certainly contributed, I think, to that end zone interception. So can't hang it all on Hoyer, other than, you throw it to the lady in the first row, as they say, when you think about things like Red Right 88. You don't risk it down there when you can win the game with a field goal or go ahead with a field goal. You don't risk the interception. You throw it to the lady in the third row.
No, I agree with you. Like Sam said, throw it to the blonde in the third row. But here, following up the point that you just made, let me touch right on that, because I mentioned this earlier in the show, but I didn't have the actual stat with me. I think this will show you the effort made to go after Josh Gordon and how that did negatively affect Brian Hoyer a bit. Josh Gordon was targeted 17. I was wrong. I said 16. He was targeted 17 times yesterday in the game. That is the most that any wide receiver has been targeted in a game in the NFL this season. Only one other player, Alshon Jeffrey, has also been targeted at any game 17 times in a game. The only other time Josh Gordon was ever targeted that many times was Week 3 last year against the Vikings, when he was targeted 18 times. Those two games, coincidentally or not, happen to be the only two times that Brian Hoyer has thrown 3 interceptions like he did. Now, the backside of that stat is Hoyer targeting Gordon was 8 of 17 with 2 interceptions yesterday and 2 of 8 on the downfield passes of 15 or more yards. But when you eliminate Josh Gordon, Hoyer was 12 of 16 for 170 yards and no interceptions, targeting the rest of the Browns wide receivers. Now, the other interception was to Dre, but to the other wide receivers with no deep downfield attempts at all. So it did show that he was much more accurate when staying within the offense than when he was going over the top out of his way to try to target Gordon. And I said at the beginning, I don't mind that a ton because Gordon needs extra work right now, but that showed they went out of what the game was giving them, which is Brian Hoyer's strength, and those were the things that almost cost you the game. That's going to be something that can be fixed and that can be cleaned up. But there was such a delineation between his numbers towards Gordon and the others that I said, hey, man, you got to look at this other set of stats. 12 of 16 for $170. That's pretty freaking clean when you look at how he's throwing it to the other wide receivers.
Yeah, and if I could just be devil's advocate for a minute on that, yes, the other receivers were easier to hit because Josh Gordon was on the other side of the field.
Boom, absolutely.
That's you've got to look at it both ways. You also look at he had a lower percentage with more interceptions thrown to Gordon because Gordon draws more attention from the defense, and so all those stats are explainable a number of different ways. But I think your point is well made. Maybe they forced it a little bit. They went into the game saying that Josh Gordon was going to play 20 to 30 plays. I was at a gathering at a friend's house who has an annual get-together for a Browns game, so there's maybe 20, 25 people sitting around the room watching the game together. Before the game even started, we were scoffing at that suggestion. Yeah, 20 plays. Sure, that's going to happen. He had, 9 targets in the first quarter and a half, I think, or something. They were looking at it. and they showed that stat on the screen, and so yeah, it was even more of a joke. Yeah, sure, 25 plays is not going to happen. It of course didn't happen. They rode that horse as soon as they were out there, and he demonstrated very early that, yeah, that's the guy. That's the guy we remember from last year. He's a horse. He's a stud. So then there's all this, well, let's break him in slow. All that stuff went right out the window.
Right out the window, brother.
Feed that guy. Feed him.
Yeah, John and I were talking about that before you came on. I said, a lot of people were like, you forgot just exactly what it looked like week to week. You go, yeah, the guy did great, but he's been out for a while. Let's see what happens. Then you watch him on that first time he catches the ball and runs, and you go, throw him the ball more. Wow. Just keep going. Forget this taking your time stuff. Let's just go with it, man, because he's a
yeah, that's right.
It
may not feel like it to him, but we're sitting here in week 12, and it may not be week 12 for him, but it's week 12 for the team, and we need the game.
Let's do it.
He's your best shot, so yeah, pull the trigger. So
absolutely.
It was good to see him back, and he does, like John said, it changes everything about your offense. It changes how the percentages that you can throw to the other guys. And I thought the other wide receivers played well too, from Miles Austin right on down the line.
Hawkins is going to blow up the last month of the season with the extra attention that goes to Gordon. I'm telling you, he's just going to continue to smoke these number 3 cornerbacks out here. I can see him racking up some big numbers. If you're looking for a sleeper in a deep fantasy league for the next month, Hawkins is a guy that I highly recommend because he's not just, look, 5 receptions, but he's at 100 yards. He's averaging 19. He's getting those good long passes, and he's got the great speed after. He can take a 7-yard pass and drop 20, 25 after the catch with it, which is what we've known that he's able to do. Talking about the other things that make this team different going forward and just a different team in general. Since 1999, Browns now have 14 rushing touchdowns on the season, the most in any season since they've come back. They have 14 is the high, and that was about a decade ago. Then they've only hit that once. So they are now with 4 games to go in the season. 5 games to go in the season. Here they sit with already more rushing touchdowns as a team than they've had since 1999. That goes a long way. And another one, I don't know if you know this, the Browns have 15 picks already on the season. They're second most in the league. They're only one behind San Francisco. That is the other big thing, is having a defense that's able to go out there. How about Paul Kruger, too, while we're talking about defenses? He made a couple of more plays yesterday where you go, that's a man playing football, right? That one play where he blew the play up so badly in the backfield that you just went, I don't know who that guy is, but I want to see him play every single play of the game, because that was a nightmare on Kruger Street right there for sure.
Yeah, he went to the ground and missed, and then got back up and made the sack.
Back up. He went down, missed the sack, got back up.
Well, as far as back to rushing touchdowns, Jerry. I go all the way back but to 99 when the team first came back, and I swear we could have that Browns team with that initial offensive line of reprobates they put together on that 99, 2000 first 3 or 4 seasons.
Jim
Pine? The Browns would have a 1st and goal at the 1-yard line, and it was a 50-50 shot whether they were going to score a touchdown. We would have taken 50-50 basically at that point, because there were countless times when we had a 1st and goal at the 1 or the 2, and would take 4 cracks at getting a rushing touchdown and couldn't do it, and we kick a field goal. I really cannot count the number of times we did that. It was, we'd have 1st and goal at the 1, and we just look at each other like, now what are we going to do? It's almost like there's no way we could run the ball into the end zone from the 1. But yeah, right. So 14 rushing touchdowns. They had 3 all last year, and I think 2 of them, or maybe all 3 of them, were by Edwin Baker in games 15 and 16. I think we took 10 games, maybe even more, last year before we scored 1 rushing touchdown. Yep. So yeah, 14 is not only is it night and day from 1999, but it's night and day from last year when we couldn't score a rushing touchdown till we were about 10 games in.
Absolutely, and that's going to continue. I'm telling you, the double whammy of these guys setting, and I think the timing of when the Browns did what they did with Ben Tate looks maybe even more. Maybe Ben Tate forced the issue a bit, but look at the timing. They knew that it happens the same week that they added Gordon. They knew that no matter what Gordon did reception-wise, he was going